All right, so I'm here with my grandmother, Charlotte Nappa. We are currently in Lake Como, formerly South Belmar, New Jersey. So I just want to ask you, like, what brought you to Belmar? Why Belmar originally? Like, when did you move here?
We, um, your grandfather worked on the Parkway years ago, and his route was from Red Bank to Belmar.
Uh-huh.
And my brother Bill worked with him, so they used to come down and get their work done real quick and go to the beach. So this is how we found Belmar, by them coming down to the beach in the afternoon after work.
They were surveyors, right?
They were surveyors they were surveying the Parkway before it was built.
Like, what does that mean? Does that mean, like, kind of figuring out where it should go through the hills and the marshes and all that?
Right.
Oh, okay. Did you like going to the beach?
No.
No?
No, the beach was never my favorite place.
No? But what was it like when you moved down here? Was it like exciting? New?
No, it was there were very few people living on the block at the same time. We came down here in 1953. We bought the place in 53. We didn't move till 63. So those 10 years we came down for the summer.
Oh.
But there were very few people here on the block at the time. I would say not even half of the houses were, where there were people that lived here all year round. But now today, of course, every house is all year round. But at that time it wasn't, and it wasn't easy to. I was just lucky that we had neighbors down the street who made friends with us. They made their business to come up and meet us, and that way we got. And then there was another people, the Moriartys in the middle of the block. They moved down here the day that we moved down here. We both moved down here on a Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. So I got to know people that way through other people getting me out to meet them. Mm-hmm. Because there was nobody real close by. Like the next person was halfway down the block.
So it's interesting. So if you were here, if my dad was born in the summertime, there would have been a good chance he would have been born in Belmar. But because you only came down the summers, he was born in Newark because it was September.
He was, well, what year was he born? We came down here.
54? 54.
Then we must have started to come here in 55 because he was an infant when we started to come down here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we must have came here in 55.
So this house was sitting here for 10 years. You already bought it.
Yeah.
And it was just a summer place to go.
They were both houses were summer. That house in the front was up on blocks. You could see all the way underneath it.
Really?
It was a real summer place. And, of course, this had no heat in it, but it was just like But no, they were both summer places.
So how did you what did you do about because that house has a basement now.
Yeah, well, my brother decided to move down here first. Newark was getting to a point where you had to move away. It wasn't safe. Mm-hmm. So my brother came down first, and he stayed here, and he put a heater on the living room wall. And they lived here for maybe a year or more than that, I guess, before we decided. Then they kept talking us to come down, because we knew we had to get out of Newark. Mm-hmm. And we were looking around for places, and every place we looked, it was kind of expensive. And I had my mother and father to take care of, besides us. So Bill kept telling us to come down here. So that's when he fixed the front house up, put walls and put a basement in. And then we came and lived in this one.
So before that, they were surveying the Parkway, and they were coming down from Newark every day to do that?
They were. The men were.
Yeah. So they were coming all the way from Newark down here to Red Bank.
Right.
Just to survey it, but then they're like, why don't we just move here?
They had, their piece of the Parkway was between Red Bank and Belmar. So they had to come down here every day to do the surveying for the road.
How long did that take for them to finish that part of the Parkway?
I don't remember. Years.
Years.
Yeah.
And then what did they do when it was done? Did they retire?
They worked elsewhere. I don't.
Just other jobs?
They were still surveyors, and they got jobs elsewhere.
Okay.
They didn't do roads anymore. They just they went around and worked with men who did homes and lots and stuff like that.
Okay, like at this area?
Yeah, like Bill worked for somebody that did the what's that called up on the highway?
Like the rest stops?
No, the theater up on the highway.
Oh, the PNC Art Center?
The art center.
Yeah.
Bill worked on the art center.
Okay.
He was working for the man who had the job at the art center.
Mm.
So they did, a lot of things like that. Big places. Your father did work with a man who did mostly homes down this way afterwards.
Oh, okay.
But earlier than that, they were on the roads. Because first they did the turnpike, and then they did the parkway. So there was a lot of work on roads in those days.
Right.
Yeah.
Was the parkway a good idea to do that? Like,
sure.
Did it improve life on the shore? I'm guessing it did.
Oh, sure.
Because you used to have to take the turnpike, and that's miles that way.
Yeah, that's way out, yeah.
And full of trucks.
No, the parkway was wonderful for the shore. Everybody. That's what happened. When we moved down here, there was only maybe 5 people lived on the block. Mm. But once the parkway opened and people started to come down, now we have everybody, the whole street is taken care of.
Right, everybody was just able to come down right away.
Yeah, you can get down here in an hour, and a lot of people didn't really mind driving up to go to work. Even, keep their job up there.
Oh, yeah.
They still do that. A lot of people drive up in the morning and work up there. Maybe not all the way up in Newark, but they up that way, and then they come down in the evening.
We got the trains now too. Amtrak goes from
all
the way down to South Jersey and all the way up to New York.
Oh yeah, you get all the trains. You have lots of. It's good. Transportation. Now they have Route 18 out there that takes you up and down to get you a little ways off the beach. So it's there's really a lot of ways to go down here. It's nice to travel.
What was the best time period here at the shore? Like, you moved here in 63. So 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. What was like the best time period you feel like when the beach was like the place to be? Or
I don't know. I suppose it depended what I did with when we first came down, I had to spend a lot of time at the beach because I took Robert and Vincent to the beach all the time. There's a squirrel sitting out there. I mean, he's got a big piece of bread he's eating.
Yeah, Dennis put the bread out there.
So anyway, no, it's different. It depends on where you work. Do you have to go to work and stuff like that? But it took me a while to get used to it. But we had very nice neighbors here. Very nice people that welcomed us. Mm-hmm. People down the street and everything that made us welcome. And then, and Carmen went into politics. Then I got to know everybody in town.
Right.
So my life down here has been really nice. Very nice.
Were you working when my dad was born?
No. I used to work in a Sears Roebuck store in East Orange. Mm-hmm. But I left there, and I wasn't working when I was pregnant with him. I didn't go to work. I think I don't know how old he was when I went back to work.
What was your first job after he was born?
I worked for the bus company. I had to take my mother and father. My father wasn't able to work. Mm. So with my mother able to take care of the boys, then I worked. Then so I shared my income with her because she took care of the boys. Mm-hmm. Because she didn't have any skills. She was at her period of time. You didn't have skills. You didn't work after you got married. When she was
a housewife her entire life.
Yeah. When you got married years ago, when you got married, you didn't work after that. Women never worked until the war. That changed everything. But so she said, even if she went to work, she wouldn't be able to make as much as me. I could have a better job. So I went to work for the bus company.
Right.
Worked there until we moved down here.
Was it like Oh, that was in Newark, the bus company. Yeah. So how long? So from 54 to 63, so almost like 10 years you were living in Newark with my dad, and you were working for the bus company. When you moved down here, what was the job you took when you moved down here?
I didn't when I started down here. I didn't work down here, but we made, as I said, we got busy in politics, and I made a lot of friends. And one of my friends was the undersheriff, and so I got a job in the sheriff's department in the courthouse in Freehold. And I stayed up there for I had that job about 18 years.
Was that because you took that job because you were working at the bus company doing like paperwork and booking and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was all that kind of work, and that's what I was gonna. I never specialized in anything. I could just do any paperwork or figures. I was pretty good with figures and stuff like that.
Well, you were a clerk, right?
Yeah, just a clerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked for the bus company. I had a nice job. But then I went to not the bus company, when I went to the courthouse. I had a really nice job in the courthouse.
Were you helping, people would come in with like marriage certificates or whatever, and you'd be helping them
No,
out?
it was usually bills. There's another word I want to use.
Tax collector?
No, I was a tax collector afterwards here in town. Now up there it was people who, it was writs, what they call writs of execution, which is people who owed, let's say, a doctor or a hospital or over $5,000. So so it was. There were two different types. You had two different courts, but we did the one with the over $5,000, and I worked as a clerk there.
Oh, it was like collections?
Trying to collect that money,
debt collecting.
Used to send out process servers with the paper and try to collect the bills from these people.
Did you like that work?
I loved it.
What did you love about
it? I liked. It wasn't why I was doing it. It was the kind of work I was doing that I really liked. I've always enjoyed working with figures. In high school, you couldn't beat me in bookkeeping in high school. My average, it was like, they would never give you 100, so I got like 99.5. Bookkeeping was my thing. It just never gave me a problem, and I loved bookkeeping. So the job was really good for me. And then when I came here as tax collector, it was fantastic. The job was just right up my alley, those kind of jobs. I like that.
You don't see bookkeeping as like a subject today in today's school.
No?
Like, I teach math, but we don't do bookkeeping. Like the practical stuff, like checkbooks and figures that you would call it. I guess like in college I took accounting, but that was like doing business analytics and stuff like that. Not like
the figures? Oh, really?
No, all that stuff. That's like
we used to do a balance sheet where everything had a balance this way and this way, and it all had to come out. No, I don't know what they use instead, but I know they don't do that kind of bookkeeping anymore. Well, now I guess with the computer you don't need that.
The computer will ask you give me line H, column 27, and you just punch in the number, and then it does everything for you anyway.
Yeah, the computer does everything. You don't have to even add anything or subtract anything or anything like that, but it did all that when I was doing bookkeeping.
When did you retire?
What job were we just talking about now?
You were at the courthouse.
At the courthouse.
And then you were the clerk.
Well, my mother was still alive, and my mother wasn't well, and the courthouse was in Freehold. So I left my job. I quit my job to stay home to take care of my mother for a while. And then after she passed, I decided to go. I wanted to get a job here, and the girl that was our tax collector passed away in December. So I was able to take the job the beginning of January. And I took the job but then I had to go to school. I had to take classes. And so I did that at night, took the classes at night, and I stayed in that job for, I don't know how long I stayed in that job. 18 years or something, a long time.
Wow.
I worked until I was 76 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have to quit then. I really didn't want to. But I thought I'd better quit. People are going to start talking about me, you know. I had to figure, let me give this job to a younger person. But I loved it. That's the only reason I stayed. I really liked it.
It's really different because my dad just retired and he hated every minute of his job and he couldn't wait to retire at 66 with full Social Security, but you wanted to keep going.
I didn't have that much to do. You know, my mother had passed. It was just him and I here. Boys were gone. And the job was right down the street. I could walk to the Borough Hall. And I didn't, because I only did that tax collecting, I only worked half a day. I only worked till 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it was the perfect thing to do. It gave me enough to do in the morning, and I had the afternoons to myself. It was a nice job.
When the previous tax collector passed away, did you hear about the job and you're like, oh, I want that job? Or did somebody recommend, who's like, oh, Charlotte Nappa, she's going to be really good for that?
No, the girl that was our administrator, they didn't get along with it. The tax collector didn't speak to anybody in the Borough Hall. No, she was a lady that was having problems, and so she didn't talk to anybody. So they really didn't want her there because, you know, you have to have collective, you know, when you work close like that, you need to talk to people.
Right.
And they were very unhappy with her, and she had been in the job for I don't know how many years and years. And so they weren't very happy with her, and it just so happened that she got sick. And she was in the hospital for a while, and she passed away. She was an older woman, but I really don't remember how old she was. But she was an older woman, but she was never going to give up her job because she was very spiteful, and nobody got along with her. So they asked me if I would like her job, and she was still in the hospital. And I said I would love it. So, but she passed away in December, just a few days before the 1st of January, and then I was able to take it over. One of those things that just happened. Everything went right.
Did it pay well?
No.
Being tax collector?
No. And no, it wasn't enough. It was okay.
But you liked doing it, so
for living close by. Well, I only worked half a day.
Right.
So it was okay. But what had happened was I didn't know I was going to take that. So when I left my job up in the sheriff's office, I took my pension. So when I went to work for the borough, there's a limit to how much you could make when you take a pension. So that's what I had to take. They had to fix my salary so that I wouldn't go over that amount of money. So I said I would agree to it. But then when you turn 70, then I could go and I could get the regular salary. But the salary was enough. It was just the two of us. We got along very nicely we had enough money.
What was Pop doing at the time?
He was a surveyor. He was always
still
a
surveyor. Okay.
Yeah, he was a surveyor. He used to work for a private guy. Oh, then he ended up, after that, he went to work at the racetrack. And he used to, Monmouth Racetrack, or wherever the racetrack was, Camden, wherever it went. And he used to do, I don't know what he used to do. Some work in the racetrack.
Like horse track? Or car racing?
The horses.
Oh, okay.
And he actually worked around the horses for a long time. And then towards the end, he got a job in the office a little while. But most of the time, he worked around the horses.
Yeah, I don't remember him working ever. So by the time I remembered, I guess he was retired by then. From what I remember. I'm trying to think. Was he working still when like me and Gabby and Maddie were around?
He retired a long time before me.
Hmm.
I don't remember exactly, but no, he retired several years before I did, because I just worked right here in town. So,
Right.
but he retired. He retired before that. He had been working for the racetrack. Then he went into the office in the racetrack. He didn't. Then he retired, but he retired quite a few years before me.
Did he like what he was doing?
He liked being around the horses in the racetrack, and he always had nice jobs, and he loved surveying on the highways and everything. He loved that job.
What do you like about that?
I think it was just being outside and kind of your own boss. You have you usually have like 3 people on to work together, and it didn't take him long to get to be the man in charge. And he liked going all over the place. He liked the idea of going to. They used to come all the way down here when they worked on the parkway, and then they used to go around to different towns, different homes. Every day was different. Where you're going someplace different, and I think he liked all that stuff, being outside. Because we bought a little store. We used to have a little grocery store, and it was his idea. He saw this for sale sign in Belmar. Oh, he was going to get in out of the weather, where he was going to work in the grocery store. Well, it didn't take him very long. We were in the summer, and when in the winter, we bought it in February. So when it came time for spring, his boss was calling him back to do the survey. So anyway, before you know it, he ended up going back to his old job, and I had to take care of the store. But his idea was, but the store doesn't. Those little stores, you can't live on what you make in those little stores.
No.
If you like the man that had it before us, he lived upstairs over it. So and he took his rent, I'm sure, out of the whatever he did, I don't know. But for us to be here, and it just, you couldn't live on it. You couldn't make enough money in those little grocery stores. You don't sell that much. Sometimes you don't have a customer all day. People only stop in for something that they forgot when they went to the big store.
Right. What year was that you owned that grocery store? Or what decade?
I think the 1960s.
Oh, okay.
The late 1960s.
I remember you saying that you hated running that store.
God, I was stuck in that place. 3 years we were there.
Really?
And I'm stuck in there from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And from 7 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. Couldn't go to church. Couldn't go anywhere.
So 7 days a week for 3 years?
7 days a week for 3 years. That and that. But I ate every I could taste it. Every candy bar, every cookie, every cupcake. I put on weight. Sat there doing. Oh, it was awful.
If you liked bookkeeping though,
See,
wasn't that a good bookkeeping job?
I love bookkeeping. I love figures.
Right.
I was good at it, and I say that not bragging, but sometimes you have a talent for something, and that seemed to be my talent.
But you couldn't do that at the grocery store. I imagine bookkeeping is a big part of it.
There wasn't much to do. We had to have an auditor to do everything with paying the taxes and all that kind of stuff. So there really wasn't that much to do with that. Every day whatever was in the cash register.
So what'd you do? Sell it after 3 years?
Yeah.
What was the final straw? I guess you couldn't sell it. Pop had to be like, all right, let's sell the place.
Well, we stayed because we made an investment in it, and we wanted to get our money back and stuff like that. So we stayed for that little time, and then we finally, I had it. I don't really know what made us do it at that particular time. I really don't remember. But all I knew was, how to get out of there.
You ever passed by it recently?
I haven't been over there in a long time.
Because my dad pointed out to me that was the store you guys used to own. It looks really nice now. So once this whole virus thing goes away, maybe we can go over there. It's like a little lunch spot. You can go there and get lunch now.
I was going to say, I think they made it into a little luncheonette
Right.
a while back, but I didn't know. I don't think it's been a grocery store for a long time.
No, it's like a little restaurant.
But I knew it was because I don't go back over by that very often. But it's been a long time. The last time I was over there was a little restaurant, little lunch place,
Mm-hmm.
and it probably does pretty good with that. You know.
Maybe not right now.
Oh, I don't think now. It's probably went under by now.
Right.
You know.
I don't know. I haven't passed by there in a while.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't go over that way very much. I don't go uptown Belmar very often, to be honest with you.
Where do you go nowadays? Or before COVID hit, what'd you do with your time? You had
I don't know.
the thrift store.
What?
Is the thrift store still open?
No, they closed the thrift store.
For good?
Yeah.
Wow.
Stupid thing to do. No, I had that. I used to go someplace on Tuesdays. Where did I go on Tuesdays? But I went there. I guess I started there I used to go there on Tuesdays. I was cashier. And I used to do Tuesday afternoons there. And then later I changed to Fridays. Things changed and I changed to Fridays. But for years I worked on Tuesday afternoons, which was good. Nice in the middle of the week. I liked that place. But now they closed it down altogether. I don't know. I haven't been by to see if it's empty. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of out there. It's kind of like in that shopping center. It's kind of hard to get to because the intersections are crazy.
Yeah, it was. But we did very good business.
Mm.
We had a nice store.
It was owned by your church, right?
We used to get nice things, huh?
It was owned by your church, right? Or the nurse association?
Isn't that awful? I can't remember now. Not a church. It was the Visiting Nurse Association.
Right.
Visiting nurses.
So all the money, all the profit went to the nurse association?
Yeah. Yeah, Visiting Nurse Association.
I'm surprised they would close it because nurses are very strung out right now. And they could use extra money for the association, I'm
I
sure.
don't imagine why they did it because the thing, it was like you sat there and didn't do any business. It was a moneymaker. Not all the time. Like when you were going in between seasons, it was bad because people had already had their summer clothes and they weren't ready for winter. So you had a couple weeks in there that would be, but not that you didn't do any business, but you didn't do it very good until you get one cold day and the place is filled with people looking for clothes for the cold weather. So you always had this little, in between the seasons, you had a very low spot, but it didn't last very long. And we did, oh my God.
They were nice ladies, too.
What?
They were nice ladies.
Oh, I love the place.
Because we went there, and all the ladies were in the back.
Such nice people. It was everybody that was there. Well, and most of the women who worked there also belonged to churches.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were all sort of the same type of people. You know, it was all older women, most widows. And they all had... There was somebody that you would know because most of the women went to the churches around there. There was churches all over the place in Manasquan. Every corner has a church in Manasquan.
Have you been going to church, or they're closed up?
Well, I've been there a couple of times, but now a couple of weeks ago somebody went home with the virus, so she closed the church for a couple of weeks. So I think it's probably going to open this week. I think it will. But she has to. I don't know how she's getting paid, and nobody's going to church. You know?
Well, I think they play it on the computer, right? Do they have a camera? I know some churches where I'm at, they film it, and you can watch from home. And I think they have like a tithe program where you can donate the money electronically. Maybe I'm not
well,
sure.
I make sure I send money all the time, but I know her husband is a pastor also, and he's down in Point Pleasant, which is a bigger church, and I know they do a sermon like on Easter Sunday and stuff like that you can see on television. So I don't know about now during the week. It's quite possible, but I really don't. I didn't ask, so I don't know what they're doing. But she has the church open. I was down there, but church starts at 9:30, and I was home 10 after 10 because she doesn't do everything that you used to do. So I was thinking, it's hardly worth it. I gotta get a shower and get dressed and get down there, and before you know it, I'm home. So,
how has church changed? Has church changed over the years? Since like the 60s, 70s, has the message changed? Or
no, not that. It had, but the membership. Young people don't go to church. You get very, very few new people in church. I gotta look around that, and these people have been in the church as long as I have. You get very, very few new people in church. You're lucky you get 2 couples in a year, maybe not even that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So back in the day, just everybody went to church. Everybody was there.
Oh, you met everybody in church. But now, in fact, they closed the church in Avon. The Methodist church in Avon's gone. The Methodist church in Bradley Beach is gone. And the Methodist church in Belmar is gone. So I don't know. They do have one in West Belmar. There's a few people that I know from Belmar that go to West Belmar. I don't know the people in Bradley Beach or Avon where they go to church, but all 3 along there, the churches are closed.
It's the same in Catasauqua, where we are. They had a church that's been open for 180 years, and they had to close because nobody's going.
Yeah.
All their clergy, all of the people who go, they got old and they died, and nobody else came to the church.
Young people are not going to church.
These huge, beautiful churches that have been there for almost 200 years, they got to close, and now they're empty, doing nothing.
Yeah, it's
Just
amazing.
crazy.
I don't understand what the Protestant churches were never. They were never seen to be like as strict as the Catholic Church. But I don't know really what happened. But people just don't go to church.
Do you have any ideas why that would be?
I have no idea why. Well, I don't know.
But
it's like before, let's say before television and all that, this was a place to go and a place to be with people and then and a little job to do and all that kind of stuff.
It was a big social event.
Yeah, and you used to have church in the morning, and then you would have another one in the evening on Sunday. You had Wednesday nights, and so then you had a women's group and a men's group, and that your church was was part of your whole life. Every day there was something to do with church.
It's like a community center.
But that's all your friends. This is where you knew everybody from church. But television changed that with people staying home. But I don't know what changed it now. But it's nobody goes to church. Young people don't go to church. And I know the pastors have done a lot of things, have changed a lot of ways, made things shorter so you don't have to stay very long. And they don't have a thing on Sunday nights anymore. But you can't get people to church.
Maybe people are too busy nowadays, like going on Wednesday and Sunday. Some of my friends, they come from Catholic families. They go all the time because Catholicism is very strict. It's like you got to be here, and there. You got to get up, get down.
Yeah.
A lot of rules. I mean, maybe that's what they like about it. I don't know. But yeah, it's probably hard. I mean, I have a hard time getting teenagers to sit still for 10 minutes, let alone go into a service for like an hour.
Yeah.
It's probably really difficult to get kids to do that and people to do that nowadays.
Yeah.
You always got to look at your phone or whatever. So I don't know.
No, it's all you go in. It's all old people sitting in church. And very few. And they don't have Sunday school. We used to... When I first started in Sunday school, it was a big church, a Methodist church, and all the kids were down in the basement. And there were so many kids that you got promoted to a different class every year, just like school, you know? Well, now, you know, they don't even have such a thing, but that's what it was like then, because everybody went to church, all the kids. But that was your only thing. You didn't have the things to do that kids had to do today. We didn't. You can get on. You can go to places. You can. I don't know. Kids You were always very close to home. But now kids can go all over. I don't know what it's altogether a different world. But
maybe the community isn't as tight. Families aren't as tight as they were.
Well, that's one of the things. You know, like my mother had 6 brothers and sisters, and every one of them lived in West Pittston. They all lived in West Pittston. One of us my mother lived over in Pittston. All of them lived in West Pittston. You could walk to everybody's house. Mm-hmm. You had all your cousins from, you know, it was family stayed together. Now, kids can live any place they want. You know, they go out to school. They don't come back.
Yeah, they want to get far away for a little bit.
I know.
I mean, that's what me and Danny did. We wanted to go really far away, and we did on the other side of the world. And then we're like, you know what? Let's go back. So we did that time. It was exciting. It was nice, but then it was also really nice to be back.
To be back with the family.
With the family. Yeah. And now we don't have any friends. Our only friends are family. Especially this year. We don't hang out with friends. We just go to the farm. We come here. We go home. Farm, here, home. Like, there's nowhere else that we go. So.
Where are all your friends? The thing is, everybody goes someplace different.
Well, yeah, everybody spreads out. You know?
Nobody stays in the one spot.
Right. All of our friends are abroad in Korea or wherever they are now, or childhood friends. Everybody just moves away.
Yeah.
Because all the families are still there. Like the Mahoneys and all these other people I used to hang out with, they're still there in Glen Gardner, New Jersey.
Yeah.
But the kids are in New York or Pittsburgh or California. Everybody just spreads out like like whatever. Where I live right now is actually like what you're talking about, Catasauqua, where my neighbor, Mo and Nancy, they moved to that house across the street from Nancy's parents. They bought the street right across the street, moved right across the street. Her sister moved to the other side of the duplex. So they all live on the same street. And like the next street over, it's 2 families on that whole street. One family on one side, they own all the houses with their kids and grandkids and grandparents. Another family on the other side. So like the town we live in still does that. It's like maybe it's a Pennsylvania thing.
Yeah.
But they're still doing that? I don't know.
Maybe it is. Maybe it depends on where you come from. It's nice.
Gabby told me something interesting. The kissing photo in New York City. Do you remember talking to her about a photo? There's a famous photo of a sailor coming back from the war.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kissing his sweetheart in front of this big boat in the New York City harbor. Gabby said you know those people?
Oh, no.
Or you, like, knew them or something like that?
Oh, no. No, I had no idea.
Oh, I don't know what she was trying to say.
It was a very famous... It's a very, very famous picture. It was all over the world.
But that was in Newark, right? That's where a lot of the soldiers went out, through Newark?
I think they came... No, I think they were in New York. I think they were in New York. But that's where... You had a lot of servicemen in Newark because Newark was a port also. And besides that, all the forts. We had several forts in New Jersey.
Well, I think at the time of World War II, Newark was the biggest port in America.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And then after the war, it became shipping, like containers and shipping products
Oh
instead
yeah.
of soldiers.
Newark always had a wharf, and during the war, you had Newark was just wall to wall servicemen.
Mm.
You went downtown, that's all you saw were servicemen, because there were so many forts here, and we don't even have them anymore. There's small places and big places, and then of course all the sailors coming in from. We used to have the English sailors there, and Limeys they used to call them and stuff. And it was wall to wall servicemen in Newark. Whenever we had a great time, my girlfriend Jean and I. We used to go downtown on Sunday afternoon, and we would be walking along Broad Street, and two sailors or two soldiers would come up and get on either side of us, and we would walk for a ways. And so I could remember one night we said to these soldiers, "Would you like to go on to dinner?" "Sure." When I think of it later on, I'm thinking to myself, one day, I don't know, I thought, I wonder what those soldiers thought they were going to get. So anyway, we take them home. We go in the door. My mother's in the kitchen, and I see her going,
wide-eyed.
So she goes in and she quick fixes puts two more places at the table. It was really comical. And so we sat down, and they had dinner with us. And after dinner, we walked them out. We put them on the bus and sent them away. And of course, at the time, I'm only a kid. We were 18 at the time, and you don't really think like an older person. And I, later in life, and I thought to myself, I wondered what they expected if we were taking them home. But then to take them out and put them on the bus and send them back downtown again.
Yeah, you got what you wanted.
Comical. My poor mother, she never knew what we were going to do, what we were going to bring home.
How long did you live in Newark for?
We were there from, we moved down there in, what year did I graduate? From when I graduated till we moved down here. We were in New York. We were in Newark. Oh God. I don't know. I can't put the numbers in my head right now.
Do you know what age you were?
I graduated when I was still 17. Because I started school when I was only 4. And I went into first grade, I think. I was only 4.
So you're 17.
So I graduated when I was 17.
You were born in 24?
I was born in 1925.
25 plus 10 is 35 plus 7 is 42.
42. Well, I graduated actually in 43.
43. So from 43 to 63. So for 20 years you lived in Newark.
Yeah. We had a nice big house.
You lived in the same house the whole time?
Almost. Almost. But first, we all had to live in different places, because Newark you couldn't get in a place to live in Newark because everybody was living there for war work. So then, someplace where my mother worked, and some lady was moving away, so the lady spoke for us and got us the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then there was 2 men who were from Scranton who were living in the same house that my mother and father were in, so they came to live with us too. So we ended up, and my 2 girlfriends were there. So we ended up with a whole bunch of us in this house, 9-room house. And then Ambrose, he stayed with us for the rest of his life.
He was like kind of renting a room from you? Ambrose?
No, we just met him there in Newark. But he was from Scranton, but he was living in the same rooming house that my mother and father were in. So when we got the house, my mother asked if he wanted to come and could have room and board at our house. Because otherwise he was eating all his meals out. So him and another man came to live with us and boarded with us. The other man didn't stay long. He went back to Pennsylvania, but Ambrose stayed with us then till he died.
He was like part of the family. Did he
He
have
had
any
a fa-
family?
He had a fa- He was married and he had left his wife. She never got a divorce from him, and he had 2 boys. And the one boy was very nice, but the one boy didn't like him because he thought he was the one that made the problems with the parents. But he had 2 sons. But he lived with us all the rest of his life. Even when my mother moved back to Pennsylvania, he moved back with her, and then my mother got another lady friend to live with them, and she had 2 roomers, and she was able to keep a house. And then she moved back down here.
So everybody was moving out of Newark at some point because you said it got bad and everybody wanted out.
It got. I don't know where these black people came from because we lived around black people all the while we lived in Newark. They 2 doors down from us. In fact, Jackie and Robert played together every day.
Right.
We used to take Jackie every place we went, and she used to have Robert over for chicken dinner and all that kind of stuff. We got along with them so well. But
Something happened.
A different type of people came.
Mm.
And they would destroy the place. They would buy a house and destroy it before you know it. The door would be off the hinges and the windows would be broken and the curtains would be flying out and you weren't safe. My mother was sitting on the porch one day. Some lady came down and she had her arm full of groceries. And these 2 little boys came down after her and knocked her down and took her purse. And my mother went down to help her get up and everything. But this is what you had. You never had to put up with that before. You didn't. Nobody ever did that to you before. You were safe in Newark.
Yeah, I wonder what changed.
But the element that came, the black element that came, they were unbelievable. The houses, they didn't know how to keep house. You couldn't live there. You just could not live there.
I remember one time you were saying there was a man, a leader, maybe telling everybody to move to Newark or take back neighborhoods.
Father Divine. You never hear of Father Divine?
I remember you saying his name a while ago, and then I never looked him up. But you mentioned that he was very involved.
He was the one who was. That's why they always felt that he was the one. I don't know where he got his money, but he was the one I ever used to say that funded all these people to move them up like that. You know?
From the South?
I guess.
Hmm.
But they were so destructive. They didn't come and the black people who lived in Newark, we had them right down the street, and I worked with them, and they were nice people, just the same as we were. But this element that came, they just destroyed everything. They would destroy the house, like I said. The windows would be knocked out, and
but before that,
doors would be flying off the hinges, and they would be out their kids would be in the middle of the street, and women coming out screaming, getting them off the street because the streets were narrow. It was just, like I said, you were afraid. These kids knocked that lady down and took her purse, and going home from the store in the afternoon. So you couldn't go out at night or anything like that. So you had to leave. You couldn't stay.
Were a lot of cities, not just Newark, were a lot of other cities becoming more violent in general? Because all the way up through the 80s and 90s, that was the peak violence. People, shooting each other in the street. Doesn't matter who you were.
Yeah. I don't
But
really...
before that, was it around the wartime? I guess everybody's working, making a lot of money, so everybody's really well off and everybody's really comfortable and safe. But then something happened.
I really don't know... I don't know much out of Newark. I don't, but the people were moving out to these other places, Caldwell and not so much Harrison. Kearney was kind of, but Newark was when they really came in bunches in Newark. They just destroyed Newark. It was terrible, and it was a beautiful city.
Was it really nice when you first got to Newark?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was. for us to come from Pittston, which had nothing, Pittston was a city, but it was not like that.
I've been to Pittston. It's a town.
It was kind of rural,
Yeah.
And so we would get on the bus, and we'd go downtown, and it was so different from but we never felt afraid of anything. We would be down in the subways. One night I can still picture us, Gene and I and this black man, in the middle of the night, because we used to get over to New York and we wouldn't get the last bus back. And it's the middle of the night, and there's the three, and the man looks over at us, and we look down at him. And that's it. You weren't afraid of him.
Right.
Now you be afraid of it. You would be afraid if you met somebody down like that in the subways. But at that point in time, nothing like that. You sat where we were. I worked in a factory, and there was as many black people in there as there were white people. And I had never seen a black person in my life living in Pittston.
Right.
I never saw one before. And then when I went down, I got this job in General Electric, and I worked alongside of this girl, and we did the same job together. But I didn't have a problem. They were all nice people. I worked with a really nice woman.
Everybody was there to do the same thing, just create a better life for themselves.
And in the people, they lived the same way we did. They were nice people. Everybody was just trying to get along. But it was, but Newark used to be. Oh, you went downtown. You had all these fantastic stores. Beautiful.
So when you moved there, it was 43. So it was already into the war, right?
Yeah.
But you said before the war changed everything. Did that happen? That it changed everything. Did that happen while you were in Newark, or was that before you went to Newark?
Well, we didn't go to Newark till 43, so that was the middle of the war. So I don't know what Newark was like before the war. We got there, and Newark was just filled with people and service people and everything like that. And so I don't know what it was like before. And
Squirrels
then,
are getting pudgy.
And then, of course, then a lot of people went back home because when people who lived in Pittston, the men would go down in Newark and get a job. They would stay home. They'd keep their house. He would go down to Newark and get a job, and then he would go home every Friday night, spend the weekend home with his family, and come back down and go to Newark, go to work.
Making a lot more money than he could have in Pittston? He's getting up and he puts his face right next to the microphone.
He probably wants something to eat.
He's a
Would
troublemaker.
You like something to eat? Poor thing. He doesn't know whether it's he or she. That's a he and the dog's a she, and I can't get used to them.
So when you left Newark, you were working for the bus company, and then you came down here.
Yeah.
When you first got to Newark, you were graduated. What did you do for work?
I went to General Electric.
To make the factory.
And in a factory where we made light bulbs, flashlight bulbs. I used to solder. I learned how to solder.
So you made all the little light bulbs for all the flashlights and such that were used in the war?
Yeah. The little bulbs.
Yeah.
You know that little white end on the bottom?
Yeah.
And then there's a little white thing on the side? Well, that's solder. And if the machine didn't do it right, there was an inspector, and she would take them out, and when she would give them to me, and then I would have to resolder them. Hot as Hades. No air conditioning. There was no such a thing as air conditioning in 1943 and 44. But see, there was no air conditioning, so your body was not acclimated to air conditioning, so you didn't feel the heat.
Right. It was hot, but not unbearable.
Yeah, it was hot, and you couldn't open windows because you couldn't have a breeze because all these machines had gas jets, to melt the glass. So it had to be hot. So I wouldn't I wouldn't know what the temperature was, but I mean, it was brutal.
Was everybody in the factory a lady? Is all women working in the factory?
Oh yeah, on the machines. Yeah,
Yeah.
You had a few mechanics, to fix the machines, but all the girls on the machine, all women on the machines.
And before that, women really didn't work.
No.
Right? They were housewives, but then
they,
I guess
when
the
they
war
would come out of
effort-
school, they would get a job in the 5 and 10 or someplace like that. Then when they got married, they quit working. So the next group to come up, there was jobs available, but then no, that's the first time that the women were really working. You'd meet all these women on the bus, and then there was, and factories used to go 3 shifts. You'd go 7 to 3, 3 to 11, or 11 to 7.
Did you want to work, or did you have to work?
Oh, yeah, I had to work.
Right.
But I like working, and like every place, everybody that you worked with was in the same boat you were in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We were all, every place you went, women, like a lot of young girls and women, and so it was nice because you made nice friends because they were all the same. You were all around the same age and all that kind of stuff. It was nice, but the jobs were kind of rough, but we managed. It was okay.
When the war ended, all the factories shut down?
I guess, well, there was a company called Breeze. My father worked for them. They had factories all over the place. I don't know what they made, but like that place just went right out of business. But places like I worked for General Electric, that stayed in business because they were making flashlight bulbs. You made them no matter what.
Right.
They're still making them today. But I know my father's place, all the Breeze places closed down immediately. I don't know what they made, but it was all war work. So a lot of places closed up or cut back.
What did you do? Did you stay at General Electric after the war?
Yeah, I stayed at General Electric. Yeah. Until, I worked there a long time. I don't remember. When did I leave GE? I was I was working there when I got married.
To pop up?
Yeah. I don't know why I left there. I think I went there. I think I had to leave my job when Vincent came to live with us. Yeah, because Vincent had been living with Carmine's sister. And so then we finally got a place. We finally got a place to live, an apartment that we could take him because Carmine's sister was raising him. And so I quit my job to stay home to take care of him for a while. But then we weren't there very long when the house that we lived in was 19 North 6th Street. And when we first moved down, that's where my mother got, this lady spoke to her landlord and my mother got that job. So that house. So we got the whole house. And my girlfriend Jean and Teresa and Ambrose lived with us. So we had the house all full. So the people that owned the house, the man that owned the house, sold it to this older couple. And they wanted us out, all of us. And there was only him and her, and they were an older couple. So my mother's trying to find a place so that we can all live together, and it's not easy to find a place that big. So the woman wouldn't wait, so she took my mother to court. And when my mother comes home, the judge gave us 24 hours to get out.
Wow.
All of us. 9 rooms of furniture. All of us people, with my mother, my father, my brother, myself, 4, 6, 7, 7 of us. And we all have to get out of here in 24 hours. Well, the neighbors were fantastic. And everybody, the neighbors all took us all in. And then my mother had to get somebody to take the furniture, put the furniture away. but we all went into rooms in neighbors' homes, which meant that we had to eat all our meals out, you know. And I don't know how long we did that. But anyway, this old couple took the house over. They had this big house. So what they did, they put a stove up on the 3rd floor and made a 3-room apartment and asked my mother if she wanted to come back. Well, my mother had really no choice.
Wow.
So, and then we had Ambrose living with us, who was a room and boarder. So, my mother and father and my brother came back to live up there. Ambrose came back to that room. And then me and my 2 girlfriends were living across the street. So I went back to sleep on the couch in the living room. My two friends, they went and got themselves a place. I mean, it was so awful. So we were living up on this 3rd floor. I don't know how, a year. And these people sold the house. They put us through all that to live in that house a year.
And then they sold it again.
They sold it again.
Wow. But
the lady and man bought it. They had no children, so we all stayed there. We didn't have to move. We were all there. And I don't know how long we lived like that. A couple of years. And then they decided to move down the shore. And then Carmine and I bought that
Your
house.
brother?
Huh?
Your brother moved down to the shore?
No, the people that owned, this couple that came in and bought the house.
Oh, the older couple.
No, the second couple.
Okay.
They decided to move down the shore. And so when it was, by this time Carmine and I we had jobs and everything like that. So we decided to buy that house. $10,000 it was.
For the house in 19 North 6th Street?
Yeah. $10,000.
Wow.
So we borrowed $500 from Carmine's father, and we went up to the domestic finance or whatever it was called and got $500 from them to put down on the house. And then we only had to pay $9,000. I think our payments were like $80 a month on the phone.
That was a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
$10,000 is a lot of money.
So
1940
anyway,
something.
So then we all moved in there. And my mother and father stayed up on the 3rd floor for a while. Because their kitchen was up there. So that's why they had their own kitchen. And we had my kitchen downstairs. Ambrose stayed there. And then we did, and Mrs. Baumgartner, she was an old lady that lived when the older couple owned it. So she stayed there as a roomer. So we had a little bit of money coming in with roomers. And then Mrs. Baumgartner moved out because Bill was coming home from the service, and Bill and Joan came in to live there, live in a room. Oh my! Some of all the things we did, it was a riot. But we took care of one another. But everything went good. We lived there for quite a while. It was a nice place. The house was nice. We had 3 floors. We had nice neighbors. You didn't have any room though. You only had just like room enough just to get the garbage can in between the 2 houses. You know, all the houses on the street were like that.
No yards or any of that sort of stuff?
We had a small yard in the back, but nothing alongside. The houses were very close to one another. But you know, we all had a little yard in the back. But it was nice. It was close to buses. You'd get a bus right on the corner, go downtown. It cost 35 cents to get the bus on the corner. It took us all the way into New York.
Wow.
It was nice. It was a nice place to live. But then Father Divine started to bring in the blacks, and we had to go. Because of the type of people. Not the fact that they were black. It was just, I don't know where they came from. Destructive people.
Was Pop in the service?
Oh yeah, he was in the service for 6 years.
But he didn't get shipped out, right? He was doing local stuff?
We never really talked about his time in the service. Because he went in, he was only a kid when he started going in what do you call those places?
Like boot camp?
before that. Well, anyway, so he was in the service 6 years, but he went into the Army, but he came out in the Air Force.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I never asked, and we never discussed his time in the service. But he was in there a long time. But he did tell me once he went in, and what he did was he took his brother. He had a brother who was drowned. He was 2 years older than him. So he took the brother's birth certificate and went in the service on his brother's birth certificate. He was 16.
Too young?
But they didn't find that out right away. And so I think when they found it out, they punished him for that. You know, so... But I never asked him about it. He never talked about it. But I don't know what happened in the service. But anyway, and I don't know how he got changed from one to the other. But he came out, he was in the Air Force. But he never left the country. He never went anyplace. He was in the United States all the time. So there was something going on in there, but I never asked, and he never told me. But something happened to him.
But your brother Bill was in the service too?
Yeah, he was in the Marines. He went in the Marines, but he never left to go overseas. They took him. There was like 20 or 22 guys, all of his friends. You know, they took them in bunches like that, and they're all going. They're all in this bunch of someplace. I don't know where they were, waiting for them to take them wherever they were supposed to go. And some guy comes out and he said they need one guy for the Marines, and they took Bill. Whoa, man. He was furious. Because that was all his friends. They would have had it would have been nice. So anyway, they take him down. Camp Lejeune, I think it is, in North Carolina. And they made him a cook. And he never left the place.
He would just cook for the new recruits coming into the fort?
Huh?
He would cook for the new guys coming into the fort or something like that?
He'd cook for everybody in the fort. Wow. Everybody in Camp Lejeune. It was a big place, a big marine place. There was 2 of them down there. Yeah, I forget the name of the other one. But anyway, yeah, they made him a cook and he never went anywhere.
They got lucky. That's the war effort for you. That's funny.
So anyway, I don't know whatever happened to any of the rest of the guys. I don't remember ever asking Bill, whatever happened to all the rest of the guys? Did they come home? Where did they go? Because this was later. You know, he's younger, so this was kind of late in the war.
Right.
So maybe they didn't go anyplace. I don't know, but I know he spent his 2. It was only in for 2 years, but they put him down in Camp Lejeune cooking. Oh God.
Did anybody else in your family, were they in the war effort at all? Join the Marines or Army or any of that?
My cousin Junior, my mother's brother. They every time they kept going up the age a little bit more. My mother's brother was 38. He was her youngest brother. He was 38. I don't know if Uncle Alec was married, so they wouldn't touch him. My Uncle Roy. But anyway, my Uncle Roy. So they took him at 38. And but he was single. So I had a cousin, Junior, my Elizabeth and Jean's brother. And he was in the service. So when they were both over in Africa, but they didn't see one another. So when the Germans would leave, we were chasing the Germans. So when the Germans would leave a camp, they didn't know it at the time, but they sprayed everything with some kind of whatever.
Chemical?
Yeah. So when our guys go in there, then they touch everything. So my cousin Junior and my Uncle Roy, they were both in the Army, like here, and they meet each other in the hospital over in Africa with both of them with their
chemical
with their hands
burns
from the
or whatever.
Yeah, chemical burns from the hand. Yeah, and they end up in the same hospital out there in Africa. But they came home okay. It wasn't so bad. They got treated and everything, and they came home okay.
Was everybody in the family working in the war effort? Like you were in the factory, mother and father, brothers and sisters. Was everybody
I
kind of
guess.
working
Well,
for the war?
not up in Pennsylvania because there was nothing up there. There's no place to.
Right.
They couldn't do any war work up there because there was the only industry up there until this time was mines, coal mines.
Coals, yeah.
So you didn't have factories or anything to work in, you know.
But while you were all in Newark, was everybody kind of found jobs in the war effort?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this Breeze company, they were all over. They had factories all over. They hired a lot of people. There were people in Pennsylvania. The man in the house would get himself a room in Newark, get the bus and go to work in Newark all week, and then he would come home Friday night, spend the weekend home, and go back down to work because you made enough money to do that.
I'm looking up what Breeze was, but was it like a detergent?
What?
Breeze? Did they make detergents?
No. The name of the company was Breeze, but they did all war work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just war work. I don't even know if it was spelled EEZE. I just assumed it was. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it went right out of business the day as soon as the war was over. They closed everything up. They went right out of business because that's all they did was war work. But they were all over the Newark area, a lot of places.
Yeah, if everything's getting shipped out of the port, it's a perfect way to get supplies on a boat and then sent over to Europe and Africa and such.
Newark, I've never been anywhere down there, but Newark has quite a seaport. But I don't think they have anything like what kind of ships? The kind of ships that we would take now for fun.
Cruise ships?
Cruise. I don't think they ever had cruise ships there.
I can't imagine people getting on a cruise be like, I want to go to Newark, New Jersey for vacation. Is that where your father cleaned a synagogue? Something like that? Wasn't there a synagogue in Newark that somebody was cleaning?
Yeah, we lived behind the synagogue.
Is that where the house was?
My father was janitor. That was in Pittston. That was still in Pittston.
I thought that was in Newark.
No, that was in Pittston. We lived behind the synagogue for 7 years.
Was that right before you moved to Newark?
Yeah.
You lived behind the synagogue?
Yeah. That's when my father decided that we'd go to Newark because I was coming out of school and he said,
nothing?
She's got no place to work. Where's she going to go? She has nothing to do up here. So we ended up going and then Bill was coming up behind me, and so they decided to go to Newark. And that during the war, which was a good time to go. And
did you miss Pittston? When you moved to Newark? Did you miss Pittston? Or you're kind of like?
Well, so I took my two girlfriends with me.
Oh, okay.
Jean and Teresa. We were like triplets.
Mm-hmm.
We went every place together, especially Jean, because Jean didn't. Her mother didn't live with her. She just lived with her sisters, and so she used to practically live at our house. We were very close, and we lived in a double house, and Teresa lived on the other side, so we were very, very close with the three of us. So they came to Newark with us. So everything went, and it was nice because we were able to get out and explore and get to know the place,
right.
The big city, and where to get on the bus and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, you weren't alone in a new big city.
Yeah, and
are they still around?
Then we worked for General Electric, making light bulbs.
Are they still around, or?
No, Teresa was a year older than me. She died maybe only 2 years ago. And Jean was a year younger than me, but she moved down to Raleigh. And so I don't know whatever happened to her. She could still be alive, but I don't think so. We used to write back and forth, and we used to call one another, but I never heard anything from her. Maybe a couple of years now. But she probably lived into her 90s also.
Jean moved to Raleigh?
Yeah, she lived in Raleigh.
What was Jean's last name? Did she have a maiden name? She got married, got a new last
Jean
name?
Marion, but her name was, oh my God. I'll have to look at my phone book.
Oh, you have a phone book for her?
Jean.
Because that might be interesting, you know, with the internet, you could probably find out if she's still around.
Girlfriend went down to Florida. Girl that she worked with, the two of them went off. They were both single, young, so they went off to Florida. And she wasn't there very long when I don't know whether she met him in Florida and then moved up to North Carolina, or I don't know how that happened. I don't remember, but anyway, she ended up living in North Carolina. She had, I know she had a daughter. I think she had a daughter and 2 sons. I think she had 3 children.
When's the last time you were in Pittston?
Oh, probably somebody's funeral.
Like Jean or Benny's funeral? I remember Benny's funeral. That was probably the last time I was there.
You were up there then?
For Benny's funeral, but not Jean's funeral. I remember because we had the service in a little church or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a little funeral home. And I remember coming out and Jean was there. Not your friend Jean, but cousin Jean. And what was their son's name?
Daryl.
They were waiting outside, and we hugged and shook hands, and then we left, and that was the last time I was ever in Pittston.
Oh, okay. That was over in West Pittston.
Yeah. And that's up by Scranton, right? That's like west of Scranton.
Whenever we ever went any place, we went to Wilkes-Barre. Like if we were going someplace to shop or something like that, with big stores, we never went to Scranton. We always went to Wilkes-Barre. I don't know whether Wilkes-Barre was a little closer.
It's a little nicer. Scranton, at least nowadays, Scranton is not a nice place. It's very rundown.
I don't remember ever being in Scranton. We always went to, but we did go to Wilkes-Barre a lot. But Pittston was a city, and we used to have a nice main street with a lot. We had a Woolworths and a Kresge's and a Grant's and a Penny's, all in one block. You didn't have to go hardly anywhere, and all the stores were open on Saturday night.
What kind of store? I've never heard of these stores, like a department stores and such?
Yeah, department stores.
Yeah.
And it was Woolworths and Kresge. Oh, yeah, I'm naming them to you. You probably never saw them.
Yeah,
Newark's and Kresge's and Grant's and Penny's. There was a big Penny's store. Then we had on the corner was a huge drugstore, Bourne Casey drugstore. Then I don't even know what was across the street because everything that we ever wanted was right here. And then we lived up the street behind the synagogue. So we were able to go downtown all the time.
Did you like living in Pittston?
Oh, yeah. It was nice. It was a nice city.
Did it eventually, all these nice shops on the main street and all that sort of stuff, did all that stuff kind of dry up and go away after a while, and that's why you moved to Newark?
The next time I went up, the Woolworth store was torn down altogether. They had it empty. But now there's nothing up there now. That Pittston has nothing in this. None of those stores now. I don't know what they've got. I don't think people even go into Pittston to shop anymore.
Well, what happened? I mean, it was a coal town. Everybody was making money on a lot of coal.
Well, not now. Your mines aren't any good, and I think a lot of people moved away. I don't think when they were away at the wartime, I don't think a lot of them came back.
Well, mining coal isn't very fun either. So
that was the only industry up there.
Yeah,
was the coal mining. Everybody did that.
But you don't live very long as a coal miner.
And I can remember my father coming home. The only white would be where he wore goggles. The rest of them would be inky black. It was, and they had to have this cap with the light on the front. and he would be so covered with just inky black, and he ended up with asthma. So he had a terrible time keeping. He couldn't keep a job or anything. We had a terrible time.
Were there any reparations for people who got sick working in coal mines? You know, it was good money, but everybody working in the coal mines eventually got sick with black lung or whatever.
Yeah.
Did these companies or did the government ever come out and like give money to the people who got sick?
Well, my Uncle Alec we never got the thing, but my Uncle Alec got, in fact, my mother ended up getting it now, come to say that. They were giving, it was the black lung pension plan. It was from working in the mines. And so my Uncle Alec got it. So when my mother moved back up there, when we moved down here, my mother moved back up there. So they kept saying to her, go get it, go get it, go get it. And so she wouldn't go and wouldn't go. So finally, the last day that you could go, my mother went. And my mother was getting, let's say, in Social Security, she was probably, let's say she's getting $360 a month. When she went to get this black lung, she got $380 a month from the black lung. It was more money than her Social Security.
Wow.
Well, when she ended up with those 2 checks, my mother was, whoa. She was rich. She had more money then than she ever had in her whole entire life.
Wow.
Oh, my God, when I think of how we lived. When I think of how we lived, God. I can remember being a kid, and I had these sneakers. I forget who had given them to me, and they were high up to here. And on this foot, my toe came right out of the front. And I used to have, this was summer, and I had a good pair of shoes to go to church, but I had to wear these sneakers. So these people down the street were getting company, and the people were coming from Canada, and they had 2 young girls. And I begged my mother to let me wear my shoes, because I didn't want these 2 nice girls to see me with my toe sticking out of my sneakers. Mama, absolutely not. So anyway, the girls came from Canada, and I had to run around in my sneakers with my toe sticking out the front all while they were there. But they didn't seem to notice. We had a good time while they were there. So I didn't ruin my good shoes. Oh, God. It was awful.
Did your mom get that black lung check? Was that after your father had passed?
Oh, yeah.
So it was years later that they were able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
She could still get it. As a widow, she could still get it. And it was, like I said, it was like the last day that they were giving it out to people. My Uncle Alec was getting it because he had worked in the mines. So they kept saying to her, go and get that. You're entitled to that. Because my dad went, she put it off till the last day, but she finally went. That was a terrible place to work, but that's where everybody worked. That was the only industry. So when it came time for the war, there was no factories or anything that you could change over. There was no buildings or anything to put up, you know. So everybody moved to Newark. Got jobs in New Jersey. Newark was the place to go.
Do you know how the family, the Alpaws, your family, got to Pittston? Do you know where they were before Pittston?
They were have you ever heard of Mine Hill?
Mine Hill? No.
North
Pennsylvania? Like north of Wilkes-Barre?
Is it? I don't know if that was considered, I think it was considered New Jersey, Mine Hill. But it was up north. And I don't know how they ended up. And then the funny thing is, there was two men, cousins. My father's father and his cousin. They were both named Peter Alpaw. And the other Peter Alpaw was a butcher, and he had a business. So, and of course everybody knew that Peter Alpaw, you know, and they were Catholic. I can remember being in in school one day, and all the kids had to go early to go to church. So the teacher says to me, Charlotte, she said, you know, she's making me go with the kids to go to church, you know. So I had to say to her, that's not I'm not Catholic. Oh, okay. But everybody used to get the name. Well, my father wasn't very famous, so it didn't cause too many problems. But a lot of people would think it's the same Peter Alpa. And then my father's father was Peter Alpa. My father was Peter Alpa Jr. So Peter Alpa was all over the place. But I don't know where the other Peter Alpa came from. But I know my grandfather, they used to live in a place called Mine Hill in New Jersey. Now, my grandmother was born in England, so I don't know anything about way back then, how they met or where they came from or anything like that. Her name was Mary Jane Hume, which is English, Hume, an English name.
So your side was all English, like Alpa's English.
I think Alpa is, I think it's more Dutch. My mother,
Dutch.
I don't know what my mother looked up, and she seemed to think that came from Dutch. But I know she said part of our family is Dutch. We're Dutch and English. My grandmother was Hume. That's definitely English.
Yes, Mine Hill is in the middle, North Jersey.
North Jersey?
Yeah.
That's where they came from. Now, I don't know how they settled in Pittston. And then there, like as I said, there were two Peter Alpas.
Kind of near Morristown and Randolph. Netcong, Sparta, that area.
Oh, I know where Morristown is. I looked that way. And it's still called Mine Hill?
Mine Hill Township, I guess. It's the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there.
I don't think so.
I guess they used to mine up there.
I guess. Then they come down to Pittston and worked in the mines.
So did everybody go to Pittston looking for work before the war, I guess?
Everybody
was
in
going to
Pittston worked in the mines. That was the only industry, was the mines. There were no factories. We had one factory. It was biscuits. Oh. They made crackers. But nothing, you never heard of them. I don't know where they sent their crackers because they didn't make any crackers from where we lived. But that was the only business. And that was over in West Pittston, but that was the only business except all the stores on Main Street. Pittston had all kinds of stores on Main Street. We had 2 movies. And Pittston was a city. There is a city. It was a busy place.
And you lived there during the Depression? Was in Pittston?
Mm-hmm.
Did Pittston come back after the Depression? Like it was able to flip back and be a nice place again afterwards?
Yeah, it was like I told you, they had the Main Street and they had all of these good, nice stores, and they was open on Saturday night. And you went down there, if you went to Main Street on Saturday night, it was like New York City.
Wow.
You could barely walk the streets. It was so everybody went to town on Saturday night. That was the only night they were open. But we would meet everybody you ever knew on Saturday night uptown. And then we used to live we lived behind the synagogue, so we lived like a block and a half away. So everybody that went down, they would stop in the house. So Saturday night, our house was you had to stand up sometimes. You couldn't get a seat. Everybody would, and everybody would stop in because that's the only night they went out was Saturday night. Everybody would be there.
How did Pittston change during the Depression? Was it a big difference? I guess you still got to mine coal, so
I don't think it probably didn't mean much it was never such a great place anyway. So I really don't think it made any difference, But then the mines. Then when the mines all petered out, that's a different story. But I don't think they still don't have industry up there.
Right.
I don't know. They opened up a place up past where Gene lived, and they made a factory up there. And Benny worked up there for years. They made something. Oh, the ceiling blocks for this. But the place closed. They only were there maybe 20 years or something like that, and the place closed. I don't know whether it was because it was so far away from everything else. I think everything had to be shipped in and shipped out. I don't know why, but I know Benny lived there or worked there till it closed. It was right up the street from them. Were you ever up to Gene and Benny's in the country?
We used to have family reunions there years ago.
Okay.
Gene and Benny's house.
Yeah.
And they had their house. I remember the road. The road kind of comes up a little hill. Their house is right there, and their driveway is really steep,
Right down.
going around to the back. And that's where all the food would be in their garage.
Yeah.
And they're under the deck. And they had a really cool old pool with an old diving board and the bath houses where you change.
Oh, you remember all that?
Yeah, because it was like that pool was perfect for the kids. Because
that pool was nice.
Because Gene and Benny were older. Everybody there was kind of older, so nobody was in the pool. So me, Gabby, and Maddie were the only kids there, and we had this whole big nice pool from like a movie. It was like a 50s movie pool.
Yeah, it was nice. She filled that in. They stopped using the pool. Darrell, I don't think, ever bothered with that pool. He was an unusual person. Still is, I guess. But he's still alive. He lives all by himself. He really... She never should have had a child. Because she raised him. She didn't raise him. It was just awful. And as a result, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a friend. And then... when Benny was in the hospital for 5 years, home for 5 years.
He had Parkinson's, right? Really bad Parkinson's?
I don't know. I don't know what it was he had now. But he was there for 5 years. But what is that you do with the house where they give you the money and now they're going to get the bank's going to get the house? There's a name for that.
Foreclosure?
No. Vincent did it to his. But anyway.
Refinance?
What happens, they give you, let's say $100,000, but now when you die, they own the house.
Oh.
And they wait for the time to come, and it's their house. Well, anyway, she did that. Nobody knew that she did that. She kept him in that private room in that nursing home for 5 years. So nobody knew what she had done with this house. So when she went... Darrell, they put Darrell out. Darrell was left with nothing because the bank had the house.
Wow.
So he had to get out, and I don't even know if he never had a really good job. He used to paint with some guy once in a while. He never had a real job. He was a very unusual person, and Gene made him like that. But anyway. Yeah, that's when he found out because he thought he was the house was his.
Yeah, free house for the rest of his days.
They thought he was. Yeah, they thought that he was gonna because he thought it was paid for and everything like that because they lived there for years. In fact, Benny built it himself.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Wow. Benny
built it himself, and so anyway, so now the bank comes along and the house is theirs. It's not Darrell's house. So. I don't know, he had to get rid of what he did with all the furniture and everything and find himself a place and he went on, I don't know what kind of money he was getting, whether he was getting some kind of disability or something. So he has not had he lives now in a rooming house in one room, in a rooming house with other, I don't know.
In Pittston.
In West Pittston.
West Pittston,
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I send him a Christmas card all the time, but I never hear anything from him. But Elizabeth I guess Elizabeth still calls him. She's 102. Elizabeth.
That's right. That's wild.
Yeah. The only thing she has wrong is her eyes. One eye's completely blind. It's been completely blind for quite a while. And the other eye, she can't see straight. She can see around. There's a name for that.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Weird.
She can see around the edges, but she can't see straight ahead of her. Mm-hmm. So when she's doing something, she goes up this way. But she can still see a little bit. Because she can dial the phone and get me on the phone once in a while. She doesn't send a card or anything like that to write or anything, but she can read the number to call me every once in a blue moon. But she's 102. There isn't a thing wrong with her healthy-wise except for her eyes.
I don't remember what she looks like. I must have met her at these.
I don't know if you ever
family
met her.
reunions. Was she ever there? Bean and Jenny.
Oh yeah, she was everything. Oh yeah, she went to.
So I must have met her.
But you
but I
probably
don't remember.
didn't remember her. But there were so many other people there. But yeah, she's still going. She's 102. She lives with her grandson. She only had one daughter, and her daughter died of breast cancer young. Her two boys weren't even grown. They lived with in with Elizabeth. She was divorced from her husband, and they lived in with Elizabeth. And the daughter died first, and she was left with two teenage boys. And Elizabeth, raised them, and I don't know if they went to college or anything. I don't think so. There was no money.
So she's been in West Pittston her whole life?
Yeah, well, now she lives in a town called Truxville with her grandson and his wife and two children. She has a room. She stays in her room, she tells me. But they're good to her. Everything is out. She says she doesn't go too far. She stays close in her room. But she has her TV and her telephone.
Does she drive or does she go anywhere?
She can't. No, she doesn't.
I guess, yeah, you said her eyes are bad.
She doesn't even go. Because I said to her when we were up there for somebody's Eleanor's funeral or something, we wanted to go over, and we called her, and she said no. She said everybody has gone out, and I can't come to the door because she had to go down some steps, and she wouldn't be able to open the door for us, so we couldn't go see her.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
I know Donnie wants to talk to her. Donnie's been looking for her phone number. I don't know if he got her because my dad's got it, right? My dad has.
I have it if he wants it.
Yeah.
She'd remember him. It would take her maybe a few minutes to know who she was talking about, but he'd remember. Do you want to write it down?
Yeah, I'll take Elizabeth's phone number. Yeah, who doesn't remember Donnie? Donnie's great.
Her part is close. I was closer to Jean because Jean was closer to my age. Elizabeth was a little older, but Elizabeth loved my mother, and she used to come to our house a lot. She used to set my mother's hair, and so she used to spend a lot of time in our house when we were kids. She used to set my hair. She used to do. I remember I was going to get my picture taken. She was the one that came down, did my hair and everything. I spent a lot of time with them because I was closer to Jean.
And how are Elizabeth and Jean related to you?
Sisters.
Oh, you're all sisters.
They're sisters.
So they're sisters.
Yeah. Elizabeth is the oldest.
So they were just family friends from back in the day? So Elizabeth and Jean were sisters. And how are they related to you?
They're my cousin.
Your cousins, okay.
Their mother and my mother were sisters.
Right, okay.
And they had a brother. His name was Clarence, but we all called him Junior. But he died young. But he I don't know, he was always sickly, but he died young. But he was married, but he divorced. He was a terrible person. They had a son, and he used to treat that kid awful. But his wife stayed with him until the boy got out of school. And then when the boy went to college, she left him. Because he was a terrible person. And the boy went off someplace else and never came back.
Wow.
We don't even know where he is. Because he didn't want to have anything to do with his father.
That's unfortunate. What makes a person do that? Be a bad person like that?
I don't know why. We always called him Junior. His name was Clarence. I don't know why he was ever like that, because there was nobody in our family that was like that. My mother's family, there was 7 of them. And boy, till the day they all died, they were close. They would take care, do anything for one another. So he was never, he never learned any of that in the family to be like that. You know, we were all growing up. All the cousins were sort of in this age group, you know. A couple, maybe there was 1 or 2 that was higher or something. And we used to, naturally, you didn't have TV or anything like that, so we used to spend a lot of time with each other. And so I don't know what ever happened to him, but he was a mean, nasty son of a gun. And the kid used to come to the table. His wife used to tell us all about it. And what he didn't do, that poor kid at the table. You know, he didn't sit upright, do this, do that, and the other thing. The kid could hardly eat his dinner. So the first chance he got when he left, he never came back. No, I don't think anybody knows where he is.
How old would he be now, do you think?
Oh, junior. Well, he'd be at least 20 years younger than me, because he was my nephew.
So he's like, he could be in his
junior son. So
60s or 70s now.
Yeah, maybe in his 70s. But then nobody knows where he is or anything.
He's an old man now, but you remember him as just the kid who ran away.
Yeah.
And now there could be a grandfather.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
You hate to see that when somebody in the family goes away.
Right.
The families used to be, well, you didn't have anything else, so families were close.
Even with no money, no nothing, you still have to.
Well, that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have money to go out and do things, so you did something together.
Right.
You went to each other's house and paid with each other's toys. I can remember, but when I was 9 years old, my mother had a birthday party for me. And so everybody was around, and it was, my birthday's October, so she had a Halloween party. So, of course, everybody came in something. So I'm sitting there, and as time goes by, I figured out everybody. And this person was sitting over there, and they had this hat on, a lady's hat, and it came forward like this. And I can picture this till this day, and I think about, I know that hat. I've seen that hat before. But I could not figure who was under that hat. It was awful. I had everybody in the room except them. And he sat there and never moved muscle. Just sat there, and I'm dying. I'm trying to picture who wore that hat. And finally, when he took the hat off, it was my cousin Sonny, and it was his mother's hat. And of course, with visiting and stuff like that, I knew the hat, but I couldn't figure out who he was to save my soul. That was my 9th birthday, my first party.
Did you have many birthday parties growing up?
No, that was it. I don't know how my mother got that one put together, but she made it a Halloween party, and we had a lot of fun. I was 9. Except when they went home, I had this boy, Ned, that I was friendly with in school, and I guess he didn't like the ice cream, and he threw the ice cream behind the sofa. When Mother went to clean, she had a big mark on the wall, on the wood paper on the wall. I said, what did he do? I said, he must have thrown the ice cream behind the sofa rather than go put it in the kitchen and not eat it. Oh God! I only had one party in my whole life, so I can remember things that happened at it. But it was fun.
Do you have any other fond memories from your childhood?
A couple things. We were poor. Really, we were poor. And my brother was born on Christmas. So, my mother, in our house, we 5 rooms. We had a kitchen and the living room and my mother's bedroom, and then upstairs I had 2 grandmothers. I slept with my grandmother and Eleanor, my other grandma, were up there. So anyway, so my father comes up to bring me down on Christmas morning to see my baby brother. So over on the dresser is this piece of a Christmas tree, and he's got it decorated. That was our Christmas tree. And so I went over to get my Christmas presents, and I had 2, you know those little books that you get now? Those little books. They're so big, they're this thin.
Like a storybook?
They used to have a name to them. Well, anyway, I got 2 of them. That was my Christmas present.
2 books.
2 of those little books. Well, I can still remember walking out of that room. I knew I had to get out of this room because I was going to cry. And I can remember turning around, and I didn't want to go out and make my parents know that I was totally unhappy with my Christmas gift, you know. But it was a really, really bad Christmas. But I got a brother. And 2 little books. I don't know what they probably, I don't even know if they cost a nickel. Those, because later on they were only a quarter. They were really cheap books. Mm-hmm. You know? Maybe they were only 3 cents. Who knows? But I got 2 of them because I love to read. That was my favorite thing, was reading. Look at the, now there's 2 of them up there. 3 of them up there.
There's 3 of them hanging out right
What's
there.
going on up there?
They're getting fat too. Trying to keep warm.
Yeah, look at them. They're healthy. They have beautiful fur. They're all ready for winter.
Yeah, they're well fed, that's for sure. What did you usually get for Christmas besides a brother? Like in other years, you know, what would you get for Christmas?
But one of the things that I never had was a doll. I never got a doll. I did not have a doll all the while I was growing up. Until I was maybe like 11 or something like that, when I really didn't need a doll, didn't want a doll. But I don't remember what you got for Christmas, to be honest with you. The only one I remember, that one. But I don't remember what we did, what we got for Christmas, aside from that year. But I know I never, and my girlfriend she lived across the street from me. They were Irish people. They had about 6 kids. So they didn't get very much either. So it wasn't like I was, you know, watching somebody else get a lot of stuff. Mary and I were in the same boat. She was the only girl. It was Jim, John, Bill, Tom, and Frank. No imagination in those names. Jim, John, Bill, Tom, then Mary and Frank. 6 kids. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different world, but that's the world the way it was then, and it was okay. Didn't know any better. You know, it wasn't like when you went to school, it wasn't like you were going to be in a room with rich kids, because there were none.
Everybody was the same.
Everybody was in the same boat. Some people had maybe a little more than others, maybe their father had a decent job, you know, but it, you know, everybody lived very simple.
What's the since things are so different now, what was the biggest change between like when you're a child and now? What was like, is that a bad question? Like what's the what would be the biggest difference between now and back then? Like when something changed or happened through the years, what was like, whoa, things are different now. New age.
I think, well, to me, anyway, most of it is money. Because, you know, even if you worked, you didn't make. And of course, where I was living, there were no choices. There was only mines.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, I really don't know what it was like if you would live, let's say, when we went to Newark, when there was all kinds of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it would have been different. But up there, everybody worked in the mines. That it was all it was. Or you worked in the 5 and 10 because we had all them Woolworths and Kresge's and Grants and Pennies. So all the ladies who worked in those stores. That's where you worked when you came out of school. And so I don't really know. But I think a lot of it had to do with wages and monies. Money was bad. Nobody had any.
Maybe money's better now, the way money is nowadays. I guess it's totally different, Belmar, New Jersey is very different than Scranton, Pennsylvania, or West Pittston.
Most ways, naturally, things are much better today. And you can get a job, and you can change jobs. There years ago, if you got a job, you stayed there forever. Because there wasn't a lot of choices in the way of jobs, So and now a girl got out of school and she would go to the 5 and 10. Well, she only worked till she got married. Then she stopped working. No married women worked. Married women stayed home and raised a family. Once you got married, you didn't work until the war came, and then they needed workers, and all the girls went to work.
How did you meet Pop Pop?
I met him in a bar, dancing.
Well, it's kind of the same as today.
Yeah.
That's how people meet each other today.
He was just getting out of the service. He was, in fact, he used to be in uniform sometimes when he would come out.
He was always from Newark, right? He was born and raised in Newark.
Him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had 2 sisters, and he had a brother. His oldest brother was killed in the service. Then he had another brother that was a little older than him that drowned in the Passaic River. That's why when he wanted to join the service, he took that brother's birth certificate to join the service.
The one who drowned in the Passaic?
The one that drowned. He used him to get in the service. So he told me one time that they found out that he did that, and I think they put him in whatever jail or prison or whatever.
Court-martialed or whatever they call that.
So I think that's a lot of his problem with the service. Anyway, but he had a younger brother, Al, and it was him. And then the next boy was one that drowned. Then he had an oldest brother, Nick. And he had a sister, Teresa, and a sister, Annie. They were nice. Teresa was nice.
That's Aunt T, right?
Aunt T, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Aunt T.
She was nice.
Were you close to his family?
I was close to her. Not too much the rest of them. And his mother was a drinker. He was nasty, nasty, nasty witch. His father was really nice. I liked his father. But his father was tied down with this drunken mother because he wouldn't, like Teresa used to have the people to the house a lot because Nick had a nice family. But my father-in-law could never come because he could never bring my mother-in-law. And he would never leave her home by herself, so she ruined his life too. But I don't know why she did, but she drank. We'd be at their house for dinner or something, and you'd go get the dish towel, and you'd hear clink, clink, clink in the back of the drawer from her old empty bottles. She was hiding the empty bottles. Beer you couldn't get beer like you do today in a can. It used to be a quart bottle. And you'd hear all these bottles, clink, clink, clink.
Do you think that happened? She became nasty, like after, her son drowns in the Passaic River, or whatever?
I think the one in the service. You know what they did to the mistake they made. They left him stay over. He's buried in that humongous cemetery.
I found him when I was over there for
a
trip.
I think if they brought him home, had him in a cemetery close by.
Yeah, she could actually grieve.
Where she would know where he was.
Right. She
could go to his grave. I think she would have been better. But I think the real big problem was she had absolutely no idea where he was. And there was no way that she was ever going to be able to see where he was.
Right.
You know, I think that had a lot to do with her drinking.
You know, when you go over there, I've been to that cemetery. It's tens of thousands.
I know, you see pictures of it. It's like a sea.
Yeah. And that's just one area. There's like... That's a camera cannot take a proper picture of all of it because there's
really?
so much of it.
Oh,
yeah.
my God, no.
Tens of thousands of graves of all these people that died in France.
Well, I think that was her problem. I think if they brought him home and buried him there, right there in Bloomfield or Newark, they had a place in Newark because they had a son who drowned. Carmine's older brother drowned in the Passaic River. So they already had a place to bury this other brother, and I think if they brought him home, I think she would have been able to handle it better. But she had absolutely no idea where her son was, and even if he showed that to her, that's even worse. You know, you couldn't see.
Show her a picture, but then she can't get there.
Yeah, I think that was half her trouble. Was the fact that they left him over there. They never should have done that. They should have brought him home. I don't know if are there a lot of American soldiers over there?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Oh.
I can't imagine, like, all the soldiers that died in France on, like, D-Day and after D-Day. Like, how do you get all those bodies home? Like, they're not going to last. Right, yeah. It's going to be rotten by the time they get back to America. So just put them in the ground. And a lot of those graves, there are no bones. There's no bones or anything. They just know that this person is missing or died, and they put a gravestone anyway.
Oh.
Because when think about it, some of these guys were blown up with missiles.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
You just know, hey, this guy didn't go back to America, so he must be somewhere. So we'll put a gravestone here for him.
Wow. I know you see pictures of it, and I'm thinking about it. It'd take them a day and a half to find whoever you're looking for there, But I've thought of it a dozen times, and I thought if they brought him home, it would have been bad, but at least she would have known where he was.
Right. She could mourn properly.
She could see his grave. She could go to the grave, and But this way, she had absolutely no idea where he was or anything, and. So it was sad.
I wonder if Pop Carmine's father, he knew that, and that's why he always stuck around, because he knew that she was just mourning or something. I don't know.
He always stayed close to her. He used to take off when she used to get too bad, because he used to just get away from her for a little while, know. But and she always did it on a holiday. We would go over. She'd invite you over for Christmas. We go over there one time. There's no lights lit. The place is all in darkness, and there's nobody there. So Carmine and I go walking in. I don't know if it was Christmas or what the holiday was. And so we go peeking in the bedroom, and she's sound asleep in the bed. So the father used to take off because he used to think to himself he would harm her. He would be so angry at her, So instead of doing that, he would take off and go walk around the block or something. So he came back pretty soon. So then Teresa comes. Oh, she was furious. You get invited here and you got to cook the dinner yourself. And she was telling me, she had everything in. She had ravioli or something that we were going to make raviolis and stuff. And then finally the father comes back. And so now we're all there and she wakes up. And now she's wide awake and she's sober again. Oh my God, it was awful. It was like that all the time. Everything... If we were all coming, she'd always get drunk first. It was terrible.
So she was nasty even when she was sober.
Oh yeah. She was. She was not a nice lady at all.
Was Pop close with her back in the day?
I don't think so.
No.
I never heard very much about his childhood, but I know. I don't think it was very good. I don't know when she drank. I don't know if she drank way back when they were kids. I don't know. Never really realized that.
Just an enigma.
But, or did she? I don't know. It seems to me that maybe she did. Maybe she just got worse when the son died. I don't really know. I didn't know anybody back, and I didn't ask a lot of questions. But
did anybody ask questions about that sort of stuff? Was there
nobody? No, nobody talked about it. But, everything that went on, like Teresa always entertained. Teresa had a nice little house, and she enjoyed entertaining. But he could never come to anything because you couldn't bring her, because she would ruin it. And Nick had a really nice family, and of course they all came to everything. So you couldn't bring her, so of course he couldn't come, because he couldn't leave her home. So he never enjoyed the nice parties that we used to have there. He suffered for everything, I'll tell you. But
was there such thing as like gossip back then, where people are talking about like, look at Carmine's mother, like what is she doing? Yeah. Like was that a thing? People whispering to each other about people's business?
In the neighborhood, I think they knew her because she was loud and like when he was leaving her, she would come out on the porch and scream at him. So all the neighbors knew what she was like. But neighbors didn't bother with them or anything. Every once in a while, a man across the street used to come and sit on the porch with my father-in-law, but nobody bothered with them.
What about in general, like in Newark or Pittston? Outside of that, was like growing up, was gossip a thing back then, where people would talk about drama in other people's families, or did everybody kind of mind their own business? Where I lived, people weren't close. I don't know whether they were in their neighborhood because they were living in an Italian neighborhood. So I think they got to know more people. But where we lived in Newark, neighbors didn't bother with one another. We were kind of friendly with the people who lived next door to us because they used to live in Scranton, and so we had a little something in common with them. But we were neighbors. I lived other place. I lived in another place on 12th Street. I didn't even know who the neighbors were. So they weren't neighborly up there like that. No, they didn't bother with you. And yet you lived so close. Your houses were, you could touch one house and the other when you reached your arms out. But nobody bothered. They were not friendly. Back in Pennsylvania, you knew everybody and it was great, but not in Newark. There's just so many people. You live in a big town.
Yeah, well,
or big city.
You have these houses like you don't have the opportunity even to see your neighbor. Your houses are close, and you have a front porch, and your front porch takes you right onto the sidewalk. So you don't, and you have these little backyards, so you don't even have much of an opportunity to talk to your neighbor. See them coming or going. You don't. Our porch used to go this way. The steps used to go off. Well, the people on that place, they had a porch, and the steps used to go off on the other side. The people that had it over here, their steps used to go off on that side. So it was. You never had occasion to even bump in your neighborhood when you got off your house, off the front porch.
It's still like that too. Like I have friends who live in New York City or Philadelphia, and it's like you live next to 100 people, and you have no idea their name.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't know anybody.
It's very isolated.
I didn't know
weird.
anybody across the street. Never knew anybody across. Never even said hello to the people on the other side of the street. It was you'd say hello on this side because they'd go past your house on the way to go to the store. But no, we never had anything to do with the neighbors. The people on this side a little bit because we were kind of, I don't know why. Well, for one thing, I don't know why we got kind of friendly with them. Well, our backyards, we used to talk over the backyard sometime. And I remember one time Frank used to work nights. He used to have swing shifts. And his car broke down. And my father at that point in time was sick. And my father loaned him the car so he could go to work at night. He used to work like 3 to 12. So that kind of broke the ice with us, and we made pretty good friends with them. But otherwise, nobody bothered.
must just be a city thing, because in Pittston you knew everybody, and that's a town. You knew everybody here in Belmar,
Yeah.
like Como, because it's not a big city. But like,
like here you have places that you get together.
right.
But even like the borough hall, if you want to have a meeting, or if you light the Christmas tree, or you do something on a holiday, but you don't have that opportunity when you live in a city like that to do anything with your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets up, goes to work, comes home.
Yeah, our town is a little bit like that in Catasauqua. We know our neighbors on either side of us, but then we don't know anybody else. All the way up the street on either side. But it's the same thing, like you said. I never really realized that. Is that there's no community events, right? Especially this year, because we lived here the full year, but then nothing's been happening. The pool's closed, the events are closed.
That's what you need, is something going on, like we light a Christmas tree. Everybody can go down for the Christmas tree lighting, and you see people you haven't seen all year, and we used to have more things than we do now. It all depends on who's running the borough. And it was friendlier years ago. Well, every place was years ago. But it's not the same now. Although the mayor has lived here, I think, most of his life. I think he's always lived here. He lives here back on Pine Terrace, the next street. But I don't know any of the council like that. The one guy, Doug, has been on the council for 20-some years. I know him, but I don't know anybody else.
Yeah, times change. People leave. You just don't know everybody anymore.
Yeah, there was a lot of... They're all younger now. Younger people. It's good. Which is good. People that weren't even living here when we were active.
Did I tell you I'm running for council?
Hmm?
In February, I'm going to run for council in my town.
Oh, are you? Good.
Yeah. The council there right now, it's all guys in their 70s, older folks.
Oh, okay.
So they've been in council for 30, 20, 30, 40 years. And last year they got a 20-year-old kid. He ran for council and won a seat. So now everybody's like, whoa, there's a really young guy on the council. He was in the newspaper too. He's one of the youngest people to ever sit on a council seat in the Lehigh County in history.
Well, 20 is young.
Yeah, very young.
I don't know if you can be 20 in New York, in New Jersey. I think you've got to be maybe 30.
Really?
I don't think you'd do it in your 20s.
Yeah, he got a spot. I mean, we're a little tiny town. Catasauqua is meaningless on the map, but he got on the council. So there's 3 open seats next year coming up in May and November.
Then go for it.
So I have a good chance of doing it. And if I get on it and I hate it, then I'll just drop out and somebody else will take my spot. But yeah, I'm going to try to go for it.
You'll probably like it. It'll all depend on who is on the council with you.
Right.
A person on the council can make your life hell. But like you say, if you have this young man is probably hoping that they get another young person.
Right.
So he has somebody on his side.
Yeah, just fresh ideas. You need
with
these
fresh
new ideas.
Yeah.
Because apparently, because a councilman walks his dog past my house every day, and he's a really nice guy, and he wants progress. He wants the town to get better with more shops and apartments and more tax revenue for the town and fix things up. And he says there are people on the council that don't want to do a damn thing. They don't want to change anything.
They don't want to. Yeah, you get these old people. They don't want to change anything.
They're like, oh, we need to put a traffic light in. No, I don't want to do that. It's like, but PennDOT, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, is paying for it and building it. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, what? Why? It's going to make the town better, but these people, they just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to change because they think maybe for a second their life might get a little bit more difficult, or I don't know. I don't know what you would...
Huh.
Did Pop-Pop like being on the council?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, Carmine was on the council for like 22 years.
I know he got inducted in the Hall of Fame down in Trenton.
He loved it. He loved it. And it was... You know everybody. You get to know everybody. Oh, It's the greatest thing.
Mm.
And just use your head with, you know, you're not going to go crazy with what you're going to do with the town.
Right.
You know, just make it a little bit better, but don't go wild, and it'll be fine. Oh, that's great.
Mm.
And you run in February?
That's when I have to start campaigning. So how it works is like I have to go down to voter registration, and I have to get a petition to run, and then I have to go to 10 people in the community, registered voters, to sign my petition to put me on the ballot.
Okay. Oh.
And then, so I'm a registered Democrat, so I have to go find 10 other registered Democrats, get them to sign the petition, and then I'll be put on the ballot in May for the primaries. And then I got to make it through the primaries, and then
the election.
Then the election in November.
In November.
So from February to May, I'm going to just walk around knocking on doors. I have to build a plan. Like, I actually have it right here. Like, I want to run on like community engagement. I want to help the town build relationships with the people living in the town, because like I've lived there for 3 years. I know 2 people on council, and there are 8 of them or 7 of them. So I don't know any of them. So they didn't build a relationship with me. You know, strengthen the trust, form partnerships, you know, work with the police and arts and all that sort of stuff. So I need to build a platform, you know, if I knock on somebody's door, it's like, hey, I want to run for council, and they ask me, all right, what are you going to do? I need a good answer.
Yeah.
So I got to work on that for the next couple months, but
yeah,
you know, it'll get there. Hopefully.
Like if find out if there's something the police need or something like that, and get an idea of what to change. Maybe change a little something there, and
right. Well, every town is different. Like I think they spend too much money on our police department just got 2 new cars. And there's only 2,000 people in our town, and they got 2 new police cars. Like each of them cost like $80,000.
Oh my God!
We don't need new police cars. There's no crime in my little town. So, and they don't pull anybody over. The cops don't generate any money. They just drive around all day. And there's people speeding by my house going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and the cop just sits there and does nothing.
You don't have any
drama of my town.
Any kind of crime or anything like that?
No, it's a little working class town.
That's what I said
in the middle of nowhere.
This town. But those guys, they were getting like, I think Freddie Hope was getting like $125,000 a year or something like that. And we don't even have robberies.
Right.
You can leave your door open. You know, you can sleep with your door open.
Right.
We don't have. I said, you can't get a ticket. The town's so small, you can't drive that fast. So you can't give anybody a speeding ticket.
You can't get up to 50 because you're gonna have to turn at some point.
Yeah. And you know, there's just nothing. We used to have a drunk, and every once in a while he used to be down around the stores and making a fuss, and they'd arrest him or to get his name in the paper. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they did. There was nothing ever. We never had it. We've had one murder here many, many, many years ago. I don't know whatever happened with that, but it was a lady was murdered. And I don't know whether it was her boyfriend that did it, because it wasn't too long after we moved here, so I didn't know who too many people were. But I mean, aside from that, there's you know, oh God, there's no reason to. It's just nothing to do.
Right.
It's
just a bunch of guys making a lot of money sitting in their cars.
Yeah, well, they like Freddie Hope. He started there from school when he went out of school. So, and every year he was getting himself this nice, healthy raise. If you get $5 a year, in 20 years, you know what I mean? That's so. And he was there, I don't know, he was making over $100,000 and some a year, and there is nothing. They had to look for things to do.
Right.
You know, get paper and walk around with papers in their hand like they were busy going from one place to the other. It was nothing. It was.
We have a nice program. We have 2 cops that do. They call them resource officers. So they go to the schools every day, and they do programs with the kids like. they'll go to the library and read books to them in the library, or they will do chalk programs where they'll go to a section of the town and they'll do chalk drawings with the kids. And the idea is, you want the cops to be friendly, so if the kid does have a problem, they're not afraid to go to the police. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How'd you do?
Oh, we're still recording right now, but...
Did you come in that door?
Yeah. 2 hours ago.
You snuck in there. It could have been, because I never saw you. I never knew anybody
Yeah, I'll
came
stop
in
the
that door.
recording now.
Yeah, Newark.
Yeah, that's right. Max's Tavern was on the right-hand corner.
Up on the corner, yeah. And he used to come down with that container because you couldn't...
They didn't have cans and bottles.
You had to buy a quart bottle.
Right.
And I can remember one day, Ambrose was sitting down in the living room, and he had one of those quart bottles of beer. And the doorbell rang. And it was somebody from my church.
Ooh.
And he goes to pick up his bottle, he knocks it over, and he's...
Oh, no.
He spilled the beer in the carpet, and the two men are standing outside waiting to come in.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. It was a riot. It was an absolute riot. If you ever saw us trying to clean up that beer.
Before opening
so these
the
men
door.
wouldn't smell the beer before
Oh, my
God. Oh, God. It was fun.
Ambrose. I couldn't say Ambrose. I always called him Kirby.
We call him, yeah, you always
Kirby.
call him Kirby.
He was such a nice guy.
He was married, and he had a cousin, Theo Bald, or whatever, and him and the cousin used to work nights, 4 to 12, I guess, So and Ambrose had the two little kids, the two little boys, and I guess he was a little suspicious of his wife.
Oh, yeah?
So him and the cousin leave work early one night and go looking for the girls.
Really?
Found them sitting at a bar.
Really?
Ambrose walked out of there, and that was the last. Theo, the cousin, he did too, but he went back.
Wow.
But Ambrose wouldn't go back to her.
Wow.
He just would never forgive her that.
I don't remember seeing his kids.
When you say sitting at a bar, she's there with another man?
No, she wasn't with another man. It was just the two girls were out having, at least I don't think there was another man there. He never said that. He said the two of them were sitting at the bar. But he thought she was home with the kids. You know what I mean? So she was out. He didn't know she was at this bar on Friday nights.
Oh, so the kids were home.
The kids were home, and
she's at a bar.
Her and her cousin were out at this bar on Friday night. See, and he didn't know that. So the two cousins go find them sitting in the bar
instead of watching the kids.
But Carby Frank would never forgive her and go back. But she never divorced him. He wouldn't get the divorce, of course, and she never. When she died, she was still married to him. She never divorced him.
Ambrose Kirby. Everybody rented rooms to people back then.
Yeah, if you had extra cash,
right,
to rent a room out.
So he lived with us for years and years, and I mean, you remember Wimpy on Popeye cartoons?
Yeah,
Wimpy. He was Wimpy. Exactly Wimpy. The same body, round body. I could show you
always
pictures.
Eating cheeseburgers.
Yeah, that's right. Just the nicest guy.
He was fine, but every once in a while he would go off, and he would drink himself into oblivion, and he would be so sick.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, he would make himself so sick. My mother would have to be making him. I don't know what she used to fix, some kind of or something for him to drink to get him to. His nerves would be completely shot. He would be like this, and
oh my gosh.
He would drink. Then he would stop, and he wouldn't maybe drink till maybe next Christmas, and he would do the same thing. The holidays killed him. The holidays were bad.
Did his kids come and see him?
Once in a while, not too often. The one Frank, he would never wanted to see his father, but Harry, they used to come down and they used to spend a few days with us sometimes.
Really? Really?
They lived in Scranton.
Oh,
A couple of times they came when we lived in Newark, and they stayed for a couple of days and went home.
wow.
Now, I don't know whether they were able to, I know Frank never bothered with him. Frank was angry at him. But Harry would, so I think he's used to see him once in a while when my mother moved up to Pennsylvania, before he died.
Always a white shirt, black pants, black shoes. Always.
Yeah.
It's all
Ambrose?
Ambrose wore.
Ambrose.
What do you
What did he
remember?
do for work?
What did he do for work?
He used to work, I don't know, he used to work in a few places. I don't know, he used to work at Uppsala College, I guess cleaning up or something like that.
Okay.
That Uppsala College isn't even there, it's gone. It's not even a college anymore. And he worked around a few places doing odd jobs like that.
Yeah.
Another place he worked, some kind of a factory or something, had a little job in it.
Yeah, he didn't have a career. No careers.
No, he worked in different kind of places.
I guess if you're living in a room,
Yeah.
you don't really have a career built under you.
I don't know what he did when he was younger, during the war or anything like that. I don't know what he did then.
Was he in the war? In the
No,
army or anything?
no. No, he was too old
he
for
was
the
too
war.
old for that at that time, I guess, yeah.
But everybody had a job during the war. You didn't have a problem getting a job.
Yeah.
What do you suppose happened to Gabby?
I don't know.
She lives on her own time.
Yeah. I hope she spent a lot of time with her sister.
What are we going to do about dinner?
I don't know.
When do you eat dinner? Is it
I
dinner
have
time
a pot
now?
roast in there. I can't. My mouth has been going all afternoon here. It's 20 to 5. I can't cook a pot roast now.
Go out and get some.
I'm not hungry. I had pizza, but...
I'm not either.
No, me either.
Yeah, I had pizza, and that pizza was... Is the pizza all gone?
No, I polished off the plain, but there's still more sausage and pepper in there.
Yeah, I'm really not hungry.
And I'm going to end